if you sit at your desk and do the actual work you know it's actually going to take to hit the result, there's a very different feeling of exhaustion going to bed. You go to bed and you're like, I am done, but I'm mint. I think the work involved is the work of an elite athlete, the dedication, the focus, the training, the help that you need, the support, the sleep, the rest, the nutrition. I think you need some of that to break through as an entrepreneur. But we don't get the pressure from push, 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 and never pausing. We get the pressure from push, 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 break, refuel, push, 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 break, refuel. Being an entrepreneur is one of the craziest, stupidest, daftest things you're going to attempt, and I'm really sorry if you are afflicted with the purpose of being an entrepreneur and building companies. The other thing I'll say about this is, if you are, it's inevitable. You can't help it. You cannot suppress entrepreneurship. If you've got a drive to make things, create things, change things, just deal with it. You're stuck with it. You're literally stuck with it. The only possible variation is whether you have a job and create as a hobby, or whether you go all in and you create and figure out a way to get paid whilst you're creating. Now, if we are going to give in to this folly and decide, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to try and change some things and make this world better, or I'm going to pursue this passion and try and figure out how to make a living doing it, we have to ask the question that follows, which is, how do we go the distance and make it and succeed without burning out and feeling total overwhelm and ultimately failing because we couldn't get up that one last time when we were going to make it? In this episode, I want to run through with you what people say when they talk about burnout and overwhelm, how I've seen it over the years. I'm going to run through with you 4 or 5 things I do to manage burnout and keep it at bay, let's be honest, just keep it at bay. And at the end of the episode, if you stick around, I'm going to show you how to reframe your goals and break them down using 5 key categories that will make it so much easier to understand what's required and go the distance. And I promise you, I will not mention SMART goals once. That is not going to get us where we need to go. Excited for today's episode? I've got so much to share with you. Let's go. So when people talk about burnout, they're referring to things like feeling too overwhelmed to have focus and clarity. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. They're talking about exhaustion, not having the energy or the drive or the motivation. They're talking about brain fog, a lack of clarity, a lack of drive. There's all different ways to describe burnout, and none of them are particularly useful to me. So if we have a conversation, or I'm having a conversation with a client, and it's all about how tired they are and how burnt out they are and how overwhelmed they are, I think one of the most useless things I could then do as a coach would be the typical, let's set SMART goals. Let's take some things off your plate. Let's focus on what it's going to do and reorganize your time, because it doesn't solve the underlying problem. And the underlying problem is the results are not matching the effort that the entrepreneur is putting in, and therefore they don't have the resources and support to go the distance. That's what I think burnout is. I think burnout is you're pushing and you're trying and you're striving and you're working on so many different things at once. The result isn't coming. So what happens there is you don't then get the resources you need in order to be able to afford the break or feel like you deserve a break. I know there's loads in that. We'll come back to it. And also they don't feel the hope and the dopamine and the reward feeling, as in, this is worth it. This is working. This is happening. And they can't continue. And so everything in their body says, you're wasting energy, you're wasting our resources, you need to stop, shut down, shut the down. Is that not the true definition of burnout? So when people say, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, yes, you're describing symptoms, but we can never change a problem by fixing the symptoms. We have to go to the underlying cause. And I'll tell you what I think the underlying cause is, seeing as I'm on my high horse and we're away with it. I think the underlying cause is, you didn't really want the goal, or you do really want the goal, but you don't really know what it takes, or you want the goal, you know what it takes, and you're not really doing the work. You're pretending to do the work. So some of the things that lead to burnout in my mind are, number one, you're working towards a goal that you just don't care about. This is an awful thing to say, but I used to have this really big marketing agency and I didn't want it. I didn't want that work. I didn't want those conversations. I didn't want the stress. I had a team of 9 people, I think, by the time I shut it down. Didn't want it. I called it depression. I called it depression because it felt like I didn't want to be present where I was. I was depressing my personality every single day. because I didn't want to be present in the life that I'd built. Me calling it depression, I could have called it overwhelm or burnout. All of those words resonated with me at that time. Basically, I didn't want what I was building, and humans need meaning. They need a sense of purpose. They need to know that their actions matter, that what they're doing is building towards something. So the first thing you've got to do is check in and ask, do I actually want what I'm building, what I'm working towards? Or even better, scrap that question and ask, what do I want? A question I love to ask myself in my journals all of the time, not just at the start of a new year or a new quarter. I always ask, Lisa, what are you trying to do here and why do you care? What are you trying to do here and why do you care? The second underlying cause of burnout is people aren't really doing what it takes, so they're never going to get there. I think entrepreneurs have a really bizarre habit of setting a goal that is stupid, full stop, and they literally don't have the skills, capacity, time, energy, drive, resources to hit it. And so what they're doing is they're skirting around the edges, doing the bare minimum or doing actions they think are going to get them there, and they're never going to get them there. In my mind, what we want to do is set a sensibly stupid goal, meaning as an entrepreneur, of course, your goal is going to be ridiculous and ambitious and beyond the realm of what's normal for the people around you. That's okay. Let's just add a little bit of sensibility within it and say, instead of trying to do this in a year, I know it's actually going to take 5 years. Or instead of trying to deliver all of this in the first quarter, I'm going to break it down into individual projects and deliver one thing well each quarter. And then critically, we want to look at the one true action that's associated with that result and make sure we're actually doing the work. A classic example of this is sales. When people say to me, I'm not selling, and I say, well, how many times did you try? I'm always trying, I'm always selling, I'm always posting. Yes, but how many times did you send people to a sales page? How many webinars have you run? How many discovery calls are you setting up? Well, you see, the thing is, and I think, of course, you're not selling. You're not actually selling. That'll be why you're not selling. So if you want to make more sales, you've got to do more sales activities and not more marketing activities. So we're going to come back to that later in the episode. And the third underlying reason is not having the resources you need to actually go the distance. So when people are trying to set a new goal, the most obvious thing that they do is split it in two and think, what are the steps? And the other thing they do is they think, how does my mindset need to change? Because these are the two most obvious things people who make content like this talk about, right? What's your goal? Break it down. What are the steps? What are the projects? Map it out, plan it out. Here's a planner, download my planner, right? All of that kind of thing. And the other thing is change your mindset, change your beliefs, work on your subconscious. Yes. But they're missing 3 fundamental elements that most people don't even think to ask themselves. They are, number 1, what new skills do I need to develop? A lot of people are attempting something and they literally haven't got the skill set they need to pull it off and even attempt it. So what's the skill set? The second thing is, how does my capacity need to increase? You'll see me talk about this a lot. I do think entrepreneurs have to take on an immense amount of pressure and uncertainty and work. The only way they're going to be able to do that is by increasing their capacity to handle that stress, that pressure, and that amount of deliverables. You can't let the work increase and not grow to match it, or let the work increase and increase your capacity to manage those projects and outsource them to the right people at the right time. So the next thing on the list is to think about, how can I increase my capacity? And the third one is energy. What energy will I need to see this through? And this is where I have to giggle, because when I talk to people and I say, cool, how's your sleep? Oh, I don't sleep. I get up early, I go to bed late. Okay. And how's your diet? Yeah, I keep meaning to get to that. And are you working out? Are you walking? No, I do normally, but... And I think to myself, this is amateur and this is the problem. But there's nothing wrong with that. There are levels that come with levels of success. And whatever level of success you want, you have to go up the level. So I said there were 5 altogether. I'm looking at a sheet here I've got. This is how I break down my goals, review my year, and set goals for the new year. So I'm actually going to include this as a download in the show notes. So when I'm working on goals with clients, I don't just say, show me your goal. I say, break it down. What are the skills you'll need? Talk to me about the capacity and how you're going to build it. What's the delivery? What are the different elements that you're going to have to deliver on? What energy do you need and how will you support yourself? Sleep, meditation, time off, nervous system regulation, go to the gym, all of that good stuff. And then results. What results are going to be good indicators that you're on your way, so that you can give your dopamine-rich brain little snippets of success. It says, come on, we're doing it. Doesn't this feel good? Tick, tick, tick. It loves being able to tick, tick, tick. So before we move on in the video, just take a moment to let me know in the comments, does this resonate? Is this what burnout really feels like to you? And I would love to hear your perspective. What else is it and how have you found ways through it, over it, around it? Because I think that people reading the comments would enjoy reading that as well. Don't forget, if you have a moment, hit subscribe, hit like, let me know that you're here. I really appreciate it. So let's run through some of the solutions for this. Number one, we want to make our goals sensibly stupid. Here's what I mean by that. It's okay to set a goal that is wildly beyond where you are. So typical goals that people might set are things like, I want to build a 6-figure business. If they're already hitting 30, 40K, that is an entirely reasonable goal to focus on. Or maybe they're doing 50, 60K, but it's all in person or physical one-to-one, and they want to turn it into an online course or have it come in a different way. Then it's entirely appropriate to say, I'm going to build a 6-figure business in the next 12 months, 24 months. If, however, you've never done more than 10 or 12 or 15, even 20K in online sales, to say that you're going to 10x or 5x that result without 10xing or 5xing the effort or the skill set is kind of crazy, isn't it? And yet I do know there's a lot of pressure on people to do that, which is kind of ironic for me to say, because what I teach is how to build a 6-figure business. But hopefully by now you'll see that in everything I share, I tell the truth about what it takes, about how long it takes and how much work there is to do and how many skills there are to build just to stand a chance of doing it. And then we have people setting goals like, I'm going to get out of debt this year and become a millionaire. Cool. How are things looking right now? And their goals are just so far beyond where they are. So what I want to say to you is, sit down and list out all of your goals and think about what you want. And then crucially, 2 things. Number one, you've got to ask yourself each time, what is the goal that would change my life this year? Which one, if I went all in on, would change my life this year? Now, listen to what I'm saying. It's very important. Which goal would change my life this year? So now we've got a 12-month period. And crucially, I said, if I went all in. Very few people go all in. What they're doing is they have these goals to build an online business, for example, and they also have a full-time job and a family, or they're spending all of their time on coaching calls, and at the end of the day, they're exhausted and they can't do any more work. Things are never going to change unless you change the activities that you're working on. To build an online business, you've got to be running webinars, you've got to be learning funnels, you've got to be learning ads, or learning how to go viral on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. You've got to be building that profile and building that audience and getting people through funnels and emails and getting them onto sales pages. There's a lot of work involved in building an online business. And all I'm trying to highlight here is you can have your goal, but make sure the goal will actually change your life this year, 12-month period. What can you do in 12 months? Tony Robbins famously says, people dramatically overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5. And that really helped me to say, I might not do that this year, but I can lay the foundations this year that I can build on for the 5-year goal or the 10-year goal. So what's the goal that's going to change your life this year? And what does it really look like to go all in on that goal? The next thing I mean by setting a goal that is sensibly stupid is being really clear on the key action that would actually lead to the result. So I spoke a bit about this in the introduction when I said that people say, oh, I'm selling, I'm trying to sell. And they're not selling at all. They're thinking about selling. They're worried about selling, or they're marketing. And there's a very big difference between sales and marketing. I'm going to link below a video where I talk about the difference between the two, and also a couple of pages I've put together where I've explained the difference between selling and marketing. They're very different activities. So what I want you to do is almost take yourself out of the equation and imagine somebody else trying to go after that goal. If they were talking to you and they said, I want to go from 10K revenue a year online to 100K revenue a year online, and you were coaching them through it, what actions would you want to see them taking? You might say to them, okay, we've really got to work on building your profile. More people need to know who you are. We need to put your prices up. It's going to be a lot easier to sell 20 clients at 5K than to try and sell 500 clients at whatever that other price would be. I'm not the best at maths off the cuff. So when you take yourself out of the equation, you can give advice on the action you'd want the other person to take without being so worried about what's involved because you're not doing it. But you've got to look at it and see the truth of what it's really going to take. I think the other thing with this is to ask somebody with the result, someone honest who'll tell you, someone who has got a result of like 6 figures, for example. How long did it actually take you? How long after the result were you able to maintain the result? Because I know people who've hit 6 figures and then totally burnt out because it was way beyond their capacity skill set. Maybe they had a bit of luck. Maybe they pushed themselves way too hard. maybe they lost a contract or got sued and it all came crumbling down. And then it took them another 3 years to get anywhere near that level again and then maintain it. So there's a difference between hitting the goal and maintaining that level of success. So you want to find someone who's maintaining it, who's honest, who'll tell you what it really takes. The reason I'm highlighting that is there are steps that we don't know. So if I've got a goal, let's say I've got a goal to do 7 figures in a year, I can make a pretty good guess at what I think that's going to take based on what I've read and what I've seen online. But what if I spoke to somebody who'd built a 7-figure business and they genuinely had the result and they shared honestly what it took and I showed them my plan? Do you think they'd look at my plan and go, Lisa, you genius, that is exactly right, keep going, you don't need me? Or do you think they'd look at my plan and go, do you see those 10 things that you've spread over your 10 actions? They're the first 3 steps. Here's steps 4 to 10 you didn't even know existed. Of course, they're going to give me insights I didn't know about. So what I'd really encourage you to do is write out all of your goals and then circle the one that would change your life this year if you went all in. Then identify what does it mean to go all in the right way. Again, I think so many entrepreneurs are wishing and fantasizing and dreaming about a result, and they're not really doing what it takes. And this is where burnout and overwhelm can really sneak in because you're drained thinking about the actions instead of being drained doing the work. I'll tell you now, if you sit at your desk and do the actual work you know it's actually going to take to hit the result, there's a very different feeling of exhaustion going to bed. You go to bed and you're like, I am done, but I'm mint. And you know you've smashed it and you know you've just contributed to your future versus going to your bed exhausted where you think, oh my God, I've just spent a day running around after other people, faffing about, doing this, wasting that time, messing around here, and I haven't moved myself forward towards my goals. That's a different level of exhaustion. I think that compounded is overwhelm and burnout. And I think the feeling of going to bed knowing you smashed it, compounding that over time, I think that leads to results and more resources that could provide balance. So I think for entrepreneurs, if you are pushing hard and pushing hard and pushing hard, which I think is okay as an entrepreneur, it takes so much energy to push through and break through that wall over a sustained period of time, way more than we were ever taught or had built into us as kids growing up. I think the work involved is the work of an elite athlete, the dedication, the focus, the training, the help that you need, the support, the sleep, the rest, the nutrition. I think you need some of that to break through as an entrepreneur. And so if you push that way and you actually succeed, and that success gives you money and time to be able to go on holiday, to feel like it was worth it, to have a rest, to get access to a better caliber coach, to outsource some of that work to give you more time back, that compounded, does that lead to burnout or does that lead to growth, right? This is the real point I'm trying to make. I want you to set a goal, have it be realistic, know what it's really going to take, and I want you to go to bed knackered, maybe just a couple steps short of knackered, and lie in bed and think, I really pushed today in the right way, and I know the work I did mattered towards the goal that I've got. I'm a winner, and the result is inevitable because of what I did and because of who I became today. I debated whether to add this bit, but I'm going to add this bit. One last thing I want to say on this is get better. Get better. I see a lot of people ticking boxes. Did you post on social? Yes, I posted. Look at it. Okay. Do you have a sales page? Yes, I have a sales page. Look at it. Okay. Do you have a webinar? Yes, I've got a webinar. Here it is. And I look and I think this standard isn't it. Yes, you have a webinar. Yes, you have a sales page. And yes, you have social. But this, the way it's laid out, the colors, the look, the feel, the detail, it isn't in alignment with the result that you're chasing. And so one of the harshest things that I'm saying to my clients right now, and you can judge me if you want, but I'm an honest coach. And in fact, coach isn't even a fair word. Let's say mentor, because I'm telling people what it's really going to take. If I look at something and I think this is falling short of the mark, I have to have that conversation with somebody and help them realize that more work is required. So when you think you've finished that sales page or that webinar is spot on, what I would say is, well done. You've completed a draft. Now go to people who are crushing it. So go look at someone's Instagram account who's got 20,000 followers or 100,000 followers, and go look at somebody's webinar or sales page when you know they're making a couple grand a year versus somebody who's making, a couple million a year. There is a difference. There's a difference in the language they use. There's a difference in the way they're positioning their offer, in the value that they're talking about, in how it's delivered, in the way things are filmed. And that's because over time they've developed their skill set. And where other people might have stopped and said, that'll do, they're they said that won't do. I can do better. And so I want to be careful here because there is a risk of perfectionism here where you can go too far and it stops being productive. Like that tweak to that color isn't it. Let's take a sales page, for example. It isn't about changing one word or changing that color. It's more about when you open it up and you look at the sales page, does it look like success? Does it have an instant feeling and caliber of, yes, this person's going to hold a great space for me. They're clearly of a certain professional level. I will work with this person. I think it's the same with Instagram. I think the little details of text coming up just as the beat of the music changes, having the clip and just darkening it a little bit so the white text pops just against that dark background. The difference between a caption that says this and a pointing arrow up to the video versus a 6-paragraph caption with the key words listed in the text, some hashtags at the bottom and maybe a couple of tags. There's a difference. And I honestly think once you've gone to the trouble and you've done 80% of the work, the physical hard kick and screaming to get there, I find that other 20%, which is really hard to lean into because effectively tick, you've done the work. Yes, I've got a sales page. Yes, I've got a webinar. But is it good? That other 20%, if you can just push and top yourself up, that's the bit that really makes the difference. And my biggest tip for you here is to have a reason to post it. So for example, with a webinar, run it live, sell a few tickets. Even if you sell 2 tickets, you run it live, but that wasn't the real webinar. That was the prep webinar. You run the webinar and you get the feedback in your gut. You know that it has to be better. You know there's a section missing. You know the sale didn't quite land. You know that your energy was off and you think, right, I'll do it again and I'll do it again. So I really think it comes down to repetition, details and feedback. So you've got to repeat it, do it live again before you film the version that isn't live. I think you've got to look at the details and think, that sentence on that sales page, could somebody copy and paste that and get away with it? If they can, it's not nuanced enough. It's not specific or unique enough to you and your offer. And then when I say results, I mean, if you didn't sell, something's up with the webinar or you didn't get enough people on it. You can't say, Lisa, I delivered a cracking webinar. There were 20 people and I don't know why people didn't sell. They just don't get it. No, you didn't get it. You didn't explain it, or you didn't sell the benefits, or you didn't show the value. Something went wrong. Don't be angry with that. Use it as motivation and think, okay, I'm missing a trick. What is it? And how can I make a change now using this feedback? The market is your best friend for feedback. How can I use this feedback to make it better? And guess where you get feedback from, guys? Guess how you get feedback on whether your webinar's any good, your social's working, your emails are landing, your videos are going to go viral. Guess where the feedback comes from? That'll be posting it and sharing it. And this is the big thing. If you post 1 video a week on Instagram, you're going to get 1 bit of feedback a week. But if you post every single day on Instagram, that's 7 days worth of feedback. How many webinars have you run in the last 12 months? Have you run 3 or have you run 24? Guess how much further ahead the person is who ran 24 webinars versus the person who ran 3. I know I'm stressing the point here and I might even be being a little harsh, but I need you to know the truth of what it takes to build a 6-figure business without burning out. And I think a huge part of it is doing the actual work, doing it well, doing it often enough to actually get the result, and then having the resources that can make your life easier so that you keep going and you stay in the race. The second thing we want to consider when thinking about how to go the distance without burning out and feeling totally overwhelmed is the order of events. Now, this is really important because we've got people striving for really, really big goals, but they don't feel safe. They don't have the basic safety needs met. And the model I'm going to refer to is a classic. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we've got 5 levels. At that basic level, we've got our physiological needs. This is air, water, food, shelter, sleep, reproduction. These are the basic needs of human beings. And I'm highlighting this one because a lot of entrepreneurs, their biggest risk is totally running out of money, not being able to feed themselves, getting to the end of the month, not paying their bills, and yet needing food, being worried about losing their home, losing their mortgage. These are their biggest physical threats, their biggest worries. And then we've got the psychological ones of, what if I get judged? What if people laugh at me? But those you can carry around with you from room to room in a home when there's food on the table. In my experience, one of the most stressful things you can do is have no money, have bills coming in that you know you haven't got money to pay for, And then here's some coach say, you need to run more webinars. That's the solution. Then you've got to turn up on a webinar with energy and excitement and drive. And yet you haven't got any money and you're totally running through any funds that you have. And there's people knocking on the door chasing bills. Is that stressful or what? So many entrepreneurs experience that. I'm going to tell you right now what the remedy is. Either you get better, you lean in and you get the result faster. Yes, that is an option and it's valid, but it's very painful and very risky. Another option is to make your money another way and get yourself in a position of security and safety whilst you build the skills of entrepreneurship, mindset, marketing, selling, positioning value, learning how to turn up and influence people and be someone worth following. Those skills are far easier to build when you feel safe. So my basic recommendations for this are, number one, get a job. There's nothing wrong with having a job and building a business. Or number two, build your business, the thing that you really love and you really want to do, but make money in a way that is easy for you to make money. So when I first went out as a coach and a speaker and a writer, this was always my dream. This was my dream since I was 23. And it took me so long to figure out how to do it. There was so much I had to master, which I am going to make a video about soon. But whilst I was doing it and trying to figure out how to run a webinar and how to collect money and how to turn up and do a live event, where do I sell the tickets? How do I report this? There were so many questions, but I had a marketing agency before that for years and years. So I even knew how to build a website and web pages. And I also basic tech. I knew a lot of tech. And yet that jump of being an entrepreneur and selling courses and programs and events and putting my name on a page in that way felt so different. It was such a leap. So as I made that leap, I kept a few of my marketing clients and I got a few more. I was building websites by day. And then I specifically remember one day filming the very first online course I ever filmed at midnight. I wrote about this in my book. I drove home from delivering for a client. I was working with them on site in London. I was building websites, doing that kind of work. I drove home from London to Manchester, got in, and I thought, now, change happens now. And I set up my cameras and I filmed 3 10-minute videos and I launched my very first course, probably 24 hours after that. It wasn't long. Again, I can hear how this sounds. Lisa, you said we have to sleep. Yes, I know. And this is the tricky thing about entrepreneurship. Sometimes something's got to give. In that moment, I was a little bit younger and I had such drive, such hunger, such desperation, if you will, to make that change. But I also had money coming in. I knew that at a very basic level, I could afford a tin of beans and some jacket potatoes. And in that moment, I had the energy and the drive and the resolve to do something different, to do the one true action that would actually enable me to let go of those clients and make the leap into being an online business owner. And that's what I did. But my point is, in all of this, it's okay to get a job and get paid in the meantime. And it's okay if you have skills in another area like copywriting, web design, graphic design, photography, and you're trying to make money from your passion, which is slightly different, go and use the services you can, collect money however you can, just to pay your bills, your mortgage, to afford the courses, the training, the books, so that you're not using your mortgage and bills money to build your business. It is going to take way longer than you ever thought it would, and you need a way to sustain yourself on that journey. Can I share a little tip with this as well? Very few people have done the exercise of calculating how much it costs them to survive. So something that you want to do, and it's very painful to do this, get an Excel sheet or a Word document and you want to tally up all of your outgoing bills and all of the money coming in. Immediately, most people are going to recognize they don't have enough money to match the bills going out. At this point, obviously the money needs to increase in a job, a second job, selling things online, whatever, or the output, the expenditure needs to come down. You've got to find a way to cut your cloth according to your budget. This is where you might be able to save a little bit on a food bill. You might move house to somewhere with a smaller rent. You might sell your car and buy something outright instead that's maybe a little bit more of a runaround. You've got to be gritty and you've got to invest in yourself for the future. But in order to do that, you need to know how much it costs. The second thing you want to then do is think about the costs of running your business. So you've got your basic life costs. Let's say it costs you $2,000, $3,000 in order to just scrape by, live your life, pay your mortgage, look after your kids, whatever it is. You need to know that. That's your baseline number. Then the next number is, how much is it going to cost me to run this business? You start adding in things like Kartra, ConvertKit, Canva. It does start adding up. 300 extra a month, 400 extra a month. Now we see, I don't just need 2 to 3 grand. I need 3,400 in order to scrape by every single month. Once you've mastered that and you're doing okay on that front, then you think, What number would make a difference to me here? What would I start to feel? And if you take your goal then from $3,500 a month to $4,000 a month or $4,500 a month, it's only an extra £1,000 a month, but it can make such a difference. Now, massive tip. The second you start making more money, I wish I'd known this, the second you start making more money, don't immediately invest it. I know a lot of coaches and trainers say, pay for your education, invest, you've got to pay down the naivety tax, you've got to buy coaching programs, put it on your credit card. It's all right, you'll make it, you'll figure it out. Don't do that, because it takes way longer than anyone will ever tell you to actually figure this stuff out. There's a lot of work to do. I think when the money first starts coming in, get into a habit right now of putting some of it away. Imagine looking in your bank account and you had 3 months contingency, 6 months contingency, and then when you came to invest in a coach, you actually had the money in cash to pay up front. I think the second you start saying, I'll put that on a credit card, yes, I'm going to go for the 12-month payment plan, I think what you're revealing to yourself, even though it's difficult, is you're not yet in a position. What if you just waited 3 more months and just was as gritty as hell, used the books, used the YouTube videos, and when you're in a great position, you said, yeah, go on then, I'll invest and I'll pay in cash, and I've still got my contingency. That took me a decade's worth of work, and you might be listening and be great with money and think, Lisa, you're daft. But entrepreneurship is expensive, and you have this belief in yourself that everything will work out. So yeah, I'll pay, yeah, I'll spend, yeah, this coach has promised me the earth, I'll whack it on a credit card and maybe not even tell my partner. I've heard people doing that. My advice would be just wait 3 more months, be gritty in the meantime. The time will come to invest bigger. Right now, order of events, get safe, get secure, get a buffer, and then invest. Number 3, to avoid burnout and actually go the distance, do work you love that pays. This is very important. We've got lots of people talking about how to uncover your purpose and follow your passion. I happen to be one of those individuals, but I really believe in doing work you love that actually pays. And here's where you've got to make an important distinction. Is this actually a business? Is it viable? Can it sustain you and your family? Can it scale? Or is it just something you love that somebody whispered in your ear? You could make money doing this, but you don't really want to go down that route. When I say want to go down that route, I mean actually become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur isn't just somebody who invents things and creates things and has a vision of changing the world and changing their lives. That isn't the full definition of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who gets paid to solve other people's problems. That's what an entrepreneur is. Getting paid means they either have the ability to craft the offer, build the sales page, go out and sell it, literally flog their wares, or they have the foresight to hire somebody or partner up with somebody who is brilliant at that side of things. Being an entrepreneur means selling, and I honestly think sales activities should be one of the highlights and priorities of your day. So ask yourself this: when did you sit down and look at your sales results and ask yourself, did I sell today? What am I selling at the moment? What are my sales activities? I remember going through a really difficult time in my business, and I set myself this goal of selling something every single day or doing a sales activity every single day. In that month, when I focused on that, I did something like quadruple my revenue. And I sat back and I was like, doing sales activities first and putting sales activities in focus actually has a real impact. And that's when I guess it really dawned on me that an entrepreneur isn't just someone who makes content and builds things and works with clients. And do not say to me, Lisa, I've got a brilliant thing. If only people would find me, if only you sent me the clients, things would work out. That isn't an entrepreneur. That is a service provider. That is an employee. Let's be blunt. Let's be honest. If that's you, you don't want to learn how to sell and you don't want to go through the personal development and growth of putting yourself out there and ultimately being told no, because that is like 80% of what selling is, isn't it? If you've got 100 people on a webinar, 50 of them ain't buying it. Maybe 20 of them, if you're very good at positioning value and making the offer clear. So that means 80 said, no thanks, it's not really what I'm looking for today. So you have to get used to that. And if you don't want to do that level of work and that personal development and growth, guess what? You don't have to. It can be a hobby. You could maybe find a job that pays you to do it. And I'm not saying this in a way of like, oh, you're not good enough to be an entrepreneur. It's a personal decision. I just want to make it really clear what entrepreneurship is. And it's selling the stuff that you're making. The other thing is finding a market that can actually afford you. So I've said this a few times, sorry if it's repetitive, but I've had clients say to me before, Lisa, my clients can't afford me. And I'm like, whoa, okay, wind it up a second there, just roll that back. They aren't your clients then, are they? If you feel like your clients can't afford what you're selling, you have two options. Number one, you've got to go and advertise to a different client base who can actually afford you. Or number two, you've got to find a way to bring your price down. So if you want to sell one-to-one to people who can't afford you, you've got to accept this cannot happen. I either have to reduce my price or I've got to deliver this in a different way. So instead of going one-to-one, maybe you cut the price by a tenth and now it's a webinar or an online course or a workbook or something they can buy in a way that's less time intensive for you. So you've either got to change the market there or you've got to change the way you're delivering so that you can dramatically bring that price down. It isn't about, add more value, sell better. If people can't afford what you're offering or your market doesn't have money to invest in what you're selling, you've got to change it up. And I know this from personal experience. When I first quit my job, I had this big corporate job in London in head office. I left my job to everybody's shock and surprise. I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build my own business. And the first thing I tried to sell was coaching to graduates who were trying to get their first job in corporate. Guess who doesn't have money to pay for a coach to learn how to get a job? Yeah, that would be people who've recently graduated, who don't have a job in the job market looking for a job. It took me about 6 months to figure out that my clients couldn't afford what I was selling. So I started selling CV editing someone's CV and covering letter for like a tenner a pop, 25 quid a pop. And ultimately I realized this isn't going to work. So that's when I built the recruitment company and I went to corporates and started selling packages to them upwards of 10, 15, 20 grand. One of the contracts was 30 grand. I think I must have been 24, 25 going into corporate. And we sold these packages to go and recruit the graduates. It was a very similar field, but I changed my angle, changed the offer, and ultimately I changed the customer. Number 4, let's finish up with a nice, light, fun one. You've got to re-energize yourself in a couple of ways. So the journey that you're on is not like, 12 months to change my life and build a business and retire. It's more likely going to be 5 to 10 years minimum. So it's important you pick something you like, and it's important that you can go the distance. So everything I've said so far is relevant. And this one here is my secret little ingredient. Sometimes when I'm really overwhelmed and over busy because I've sold too much or I've promised too much or I've over delivered too much, genuine challenges that I face on the regular, I say to myself, you can't power through this, Lisa. You know, I said in the beginning, it takes so much effort to push through that brick wall, so much sustained pressure to break through. That is true. But we don't get the pressure from push, 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 and never pausing. We get the pressure from push, 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 break, refuel, push, 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 break, refuel. And I think this is a fundamental difference. A lot of entrepreneurs don't feel like they deserve the break. And this is a big thing. I do. I feel like if I've done the work and I've gone to bed and I'm like, I'm spent. Come the Friday, probably I'm going to check into a hotel, have a lovely Friday, Saturday with my other half. Or come the end of the year, probably I'm going to take 2 weeks off with my family to really chill and be a human being, because that's a different species to entrepreneurship, just so you're aware. And hang out with my family and eat and just watch telly and be that person. Also, this might shock you, I probably watch about 3 movies a week. What? Lisa, you don't have time to watch movies? Entrepreneurs say, if you're watching movies, you've got time to do other things. Let's remember the output. Yes, I want to increase my output, but I also want to make it. I want to enjoy it. So the way that I do this is I get up at 5 a.m., I smash the hard tasks, eat the frog, as they say. I do my admin, I do the difficult things. Most of my day is coaching calls. But if I've got 45 minutes for lunch, or I've got an hour break in the afternoon, if I can't really deliver in that time because I'm just a little bit spent, I've been on loads of calls, I know that I need to stop, eat a really good nutritious lunch. I'm talking fiber, vegetables, high protein, some good carbs in there, and maybe a really nice Greek yogurt with fruit, something where I feel like I lived a little today. And guess what I have on in the background? A movie. So I never sit and watch a movie in one sitting. I don't know if I've got the attention span for that, never mind the time, but I watch 45 minutes there, 15 minutes there, half an hour there. And by the end of the week, the truth is I've watched a few movies, and that's really important to me because watching movies helps me unwind, helps me feel like I've had a bit of a treat. And I love movies. I just can't tell you, I love movies. That's important to me. So you don't have to work every single minute of the day. You have to work and produce and deliver outcomes and be careful with your time. But there is room to watch that movie, hang out with your other half, book that hotel or that comedy night away. I think you've got to find ways to let your brain just switch off and be a human being in the process. But there is another really important example, and that is actually getting up away from the screens and going on a walk. And this is where, I'll be honest, I'm so grateful to have a dog, because truth be told, if I didn't have I shouldn't call her a dog, she doesn't know she's a dog, but if I didn't have that little whippet in my life, I think there are days when I might not leave the house. Going to the gym gets me out the house, gets me physical, gets me moving, gets stress out of my body, gives me time to think, listen to music, be human, and then walking the dog at least once, sometimes twice a day, depending on how stressful the day is. It just helps me to reset and re-energize myself. So going on walks, going to the gym, having a little time off with movie, these are really important little breaks in my day that just give me a chance to reset, re-regulate, and be human. The other thing when I talk about re-energize is variety. So sorry to mention it again, but just this is an example in my life right now. For me, stopping to write the book that I'm working on is not re-energizing. That's going from one delivery using a lot of mental headspace to another delivery, all linked to the same ultimate goal of building profile and adding value in the world and trying to deliver something else. But the renovation project, for example, that gives me a little bit of variety and a different way to focus my energy. So when I've got a project, like I recently did the living room, I would do my work, and I was so excited to get to the end of the night because I knew that evening I'd have tea, hang out with my family, and then I'd get my big saw out and start cutting panels of wood to go on the wall. I loved that because sometimes entrepreneurs, we find it hard to sit still. I think there's nothing worse than sitting scrolling on your phone because you're bored and you've got nothing better to do. If you're that person, maybe redecorate your house. My next big project is going to be the hallway. I've got panels up the walls. I've got all pictures to do. I need to rip up the carpets, tile the floor, paint all of the walls and the ceiling. We've got weird cladding on the ceiling. That's going to come down. That's going to be a really big project for me next month. And I can't wait because a break doesn't always have to be TV, a walk, an overnight stay in a hotel. A break could be a totally different activity like going to play netball with your friends, renovating your house, clearing out your wardrobe, even having a nice hot bath. Don't punish yourself on this journey. You've got to look after yourself so that you can go the distance and treat yourself like somebody you care about. Have little treats booked into your week, into your month, into your year. Know they're coming up. Make the goal sensibly stupid. Let's have a sensibly stupid goal. Break it down, be clear on what the one true action is. Think about the order of events, safety first, little buffer, take your time, extend your timelines, that's all okay. Do work that you love, make sure it pays and make sure your clients can afford you. And don't forget, to go the distance, you're definitely going to need to stop and refuel, and that's okay. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as ever, please hit subscribe, hit like, leave me a comment. You know that I reply to all of those comments, and I will be watching out to see what you think. For now, over and out.